Pegleg Lonergan had succeeded a guy named Wild Bill Lovett to boss of a gang called the White Handers. Bill Lovett was born in Lixnaw, County Kerry, Ireland, and he came to New York as a child. By his early 20s, he, by the way, was childhood friends with Lonergan, Pegleg Lonergan. By his early teens, I've got 20s here. By his early teens, he was a gangster on the waterfront. And during World War I, he was drafted into a machine gun unit. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for bravery, so it's unusual. I think Monk Eastman fought in World War I as well, and he, I think, was awarded a cross. So was a Jewish gangster out in, I say he was Jewish because he represented the Jewish neighborhoods in Chicago, and I can't remember his name, but he was also a war hero. Anyway, after the war, Lovett, by that time he's an alcoholic, returned to Brooklyn and he took over what was called the J Street gang. They operated on the waterfront against a group called the White Handers, which was led by this guy, Denny Meehan, who, anyway, they shot and killed Denny Meehan while he was sleeping with his wife at his side in bed on the afternoon of March 31, 1920. Lovett at that point became boss of the White Hand Gang, which was much larger than the J Street Gang. Meehan's killers, by the way, they walked in, it was middle of the day or late in the day, walked into the apartment, they stopped, they had a chit chat with Meehan's son, and then they walked in and killed his father. Frankie Yale, who was moving in on the waterfront, he really wanted it. He was the leader when Yale's guys took over the waterfront, which they did eventually. It fell into the hands of the Italian gangsters and never really left. Um, in the I should say in the 30s, 40s, 50s, late early 50s, there were Irish gangsters running things on some of the water. There's a lot of waterfronts, and not just one, and different sections of the waterfront, I should say. But really, they answered to the Italian mafia, not so. But they were active there, so I don't want to leave the impression it was exclusively Italian. Anyway, Frankie Yale was moving in, and he more than probably set up Meehan's execution. The cops didn't care. As far as they were concerned, it was Lovett, and that's it. He killed him. Lovett didn't move the gang into bootlegging. I mean, he didn't see a need, and he was probably right. Bootlegging was crowded. Everybody was in on it. And the waterfront is like owning a gold mine. I mean, everything you can think of is right there. You know, it's made a lot of people. Albert Anastasia is one of them. It's made a lot of people rich. So, like Monk Eastman, who was a contemporary, Lovett was an animal lover. But like Eastman, he was capable of incredible instant violence. In 1919, he more than probably killed a guy named Sammy D'Angelo, another guy named Dan Gillen. In 1921, this character named Gary Barry, he was a Meehan loyalist. He never acknowledged the gang had been taken over by Lovett. He waited in an alley, and when Lovett was walking into the Brooklyn court, he fired shots at him. He missed him. It's too bad because they found him stabbed to death a few days later. 2 years later, on January 3, 1923, Lovett was shot 3 times in the chest by this guy, Eddie Hughes. When the cops said, well, who shot you? Lovett said, nobody shot me. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I don't tell. When he recovered, though, Lovett found Hughes and he shot him to death. A few months later, this is May 23, 1923. 1923 is a busy year for Lovett. Lovett shot and killed two brothers. One was Timmy Quillity, and shot him. He wounded the brother badly enough that he had to get out of the rackets. What he had done was Levitt had lured him to a peace conference at his favorite bar, Tommy Sands Saloon. I'm going to find out where that is. A few weeks later, Lovett's man Frank Healy was murdered at J and Plymouth Streets by Frank Byrne in retaliation for the Quillity shooting. A week after that, Lovett's men, they found Frank Byrne and his friend Jimmy Martin. They were walking on Nassau and Gold Streets. They killed Martin, but they missed Byrne. But Byrne left. He never came back to the waterfront. I don't blame him. In the summer of 1923, Lovett finally married Anna Lonergan. She was Pegleg's sister. She was known as Queen of the Irish Town Docks. Huh. He quit the rackets. He said he would quit the rackets. He had more than enough money. He turned the gang over to Lonergan and he moved to Little Ferry, New Jersey. which was like worlds away from the Brooklyn waterfront. On October 30, 1923, Lovett in this thing, he'd been on the straight and narrow for 3 months. He told his wife he's going into Manhattan. He was going to get interviewed for a position of a foreman in a silk factory. That didn't sound right just on face value alone, but anyway, he didn't go. He said, "Why don't you come with me?" And she said, "No, it's a long way. I'll stay here." Anyway, he didn't make it, of course, obviously. He went to Brooklyn instead. He went back to the waterfront, and he spent the day basically back in Tommy Sand's saloon getting drunk. The next night, Halloween, Lovett and his long-lost pal, Joe Flynn, they were drunk and asleep in an abandoned store at 25 Bridge Street. Flynn claims he woke up and then he walked home and he just left Lovett there. Yeah, I don't know. Sometime between 2 or 3 in the morning, two guys came in. They beat Lovett severely with some sort of a blunt instrument, and they shot him 3 times in the head and the neck, and they killed him, of course. So now we go back to Lonergan. He's got the gang. Uh, the first thing he did was fall. Say what you will for Lovett, he was a nut, but he more or less kept the gang out of things, and his whole thing was to make money. But Lonergan, he led them on a 2-year war with Frankie Yale for control of the waterfront. Now, it is true, Yale became more and more aggressive, and with Lovett gone, he was afraid of Lovett. I don't blame him. He figured he could take Lonergan. Lonergan was one of 15 kids. 15 kids. He was the son of a prize fighter, a bare knuckle boxer named Johnny Lonergan. Richard Pegleg, I hate to put it this way, lost his right leg in a trolley accident as a child. Regardless, he had a fearsome reputation, and he was thought to have been responsible for at least 12 murders along the waterfront. I want to stop here and tell you really quickly. I've said this before. I knew this guy, Joe Piggs. Joe Pignatello. He ran a famous restaurant in Las Vegas. If you saw the movie Goodfellas, no, with the one that took place in Las Vegas. I forgot the name of it. That was his restaurant. That was Joe's actual restaurant. And the Chicago mob loved him. Everybody loved his restaurant. It was he gave Frank Sinatra his last meal. And the reason I'm telling you this is he was in Chicago and he was crossing the street and got whacked by a trolley car that almost severed his leg off. And he had to recuperate in the kitchen. They couldn't lift him up, bring him upstairs. So he watched his grandmother, and Al Capone's mother, make breads from whatever part of Italy they were both from, some specific part where they had specific types of food. And then the ladies would go to that neighborhood where those types of Italian people were, whatever section that is, and sell them these delicacies. And so, anyway, it's from there that Joe learned how to bake and so forth. He was an amazing guy. Anyway, on the night of December 25, 1925, Lonergan and 5 of his men, they're dead drunk. They kicked their way into the Adonis Social Club, which is really an Italian place, Italian American thing. So they're having a Christmas celebration. Lonergan is loaded and he yells, he starts calling people wops and dagos. And then 3 local girls, Irish American girls, they come into the club, they were Italian boys. And he chased them out of the club. He's screaming at them, come back with white men. What a delightful guy he is. So then the lights went out, and there was gunfire, and the lights came back on. Lonergan's best friend, Aaron Harms, was dead. He had crawled out onto the street and bled to death. Lonergan and his drug addict named Cornelius Needles Ferry, how do you think he got the name Needle, were dead on the dance floor, but they had been murdered execution style. The fourth, a white-hander, a guy named Jimmy Hart, had been found a few blocks away. He had crawled, believe it or not, all the way down the street. He'd been shot in the thigh, which is why he was crawling. He survived, but he didn't know nothing about nothing. Al Capone, who was a Brooklynite, as you probably know, was born there in that area, was visiting from Chicago. He was arrested in the shooting. Nothing came of it. A lot of other people were arrested, too. Annie Lonergan, she's pissed. She says, look, the whole thing, she says, is from foreigners. She did this. The foreigners did it. She said, you can bet it wasn't no Irish American like ourselves who would stage a mean murder like this on Christmas Day. So I guess if they had planned a mean murder any other day, it would have been fine. The killing was generally attributed to Capone. I agree with that, right? Who was in a partnership with Frankie Yale. Yale may have called him in and said, look, you got to take care of these Irish guys, get rid of them. So the White Hand Gang disappeared. from the Brooklyn waterfront. And Yale took over, and as I said, the Italians got hold of it, and they never gave it up.
I'd like to go fishing and catch a fish stick. That would be convenient.